Hello, Tyler Gorn here with another video. Today's topic is going to be about flying carpets and a few other tricks that are available to us in vanilla survival Minecraft. As you can see, I am, I guess not quite flying, but I am at least floating here. So I hope you can forgive a little bit of hyperbole and how I named this episode. But I want to talk about a few exploits that we can do to get carpets and a few other blocks in states that seem a little bit impossible. So, by the way, I'm just floating on a pig with an invisibility potion, so that part is not quite survival friendly, at least not to get him to float here like this with no AI and no sounds. But anyway, regardless, we can walk on this, we can jump around, we could even interact with these buttons. This is completely stable. Anyway, on to the video. All right, so here I am in creative, and I've got a handful of blocks that are in seemingly impossible states. So, for instance, pink carpet that is suspended by a button that's also holding up the carpet. The same thing with a lantern, those same things with concrete powder, hanging signs, hanging roots, or even plain. And by the way, these things can also be chained together. So now we've got a couple of carpets, and with nothing supporting them, no supporting blocks. So there's a combination of different ways that we can achieve this, and the most common one that I see talked about involves water source blocks. So there's an exploit or a little mechanic that's maybe not intended in the game where if a sticky piston retracts and it's not able to pull a slime block back that it's connected to, it essentially skips the update of the water. So you can see here, we now have a floating water source block. But people don't tend to talk about the fact, or maybe they're not aware, that you can actually do the same thing with a couple other blocks, such as carpet and gravity blocks like concrete powder, anvils would work there as well, sand, gravel. I don't have to be too complete. So anyway, that's one way of doing it, kind of the retracting sticky piston. But there's also a couple other ways that if you just need, one or two blocks in this state, you can actually employ. So grass blocks, that is not grass blocks, but grass, the item. Those can be replaced by, pretty much anything in the game. So if I were to place a lantern against the bottom of this, then the lantern essentially stabilizes the state of the carpet. So now this is kind of completely safe for updates, like block updates and things like that. You can actually do the same thing with tall grass and anything that replaces a liquid, say for instance buttonwood, that can be used to get the same thing. Or if you want this in the nether, you can use a lava source block, and now these are stabilized because they're in a kind of symbiotic relationship with the supporting block and the ceiling block. So each of these need either a ceiling or a floor to sit on, and the button actually provides the floor for the carpet. And yeah, so is that useful for anything? Probably not anything technical, though I did make a really hilarious block update detector here. So every time that gets an update, it realizes that it should fall, and then it resets. Is that useful? I don't know. Probably not. I can't think of any reason why I would ever use this over any number of smaller bud designs, but I thought it was cool, so I figured I'd include that. Main thing is maybe cosmetic. So here's like a food truck that I designed, which, maybe I can show this in context as I'm yammering about it, but the front of it, and maybe we could imagine this pulls up and is suspended, and so you can go and grab your, pork chops or whatever is in there, and then, when it's time to roll away, this thing can drive along with its Fred Flintstone tires. So anyway, that's kind of the video. Hope you enjoy. If you have any interesting use cases for floating carpets aside from, maybe a kind of cool parkour course, let me know in the comments. Have a great day. Okay, I did want to add a quick postscript to talk about a couple of useful cases for maybe having water that has been update skipped like this in a survival world. An example of that would be the water column that we have here in the experience farm part of my server. So this has to be complete source blocks all the way through, so despite the visual appearance of this, it is in fact all water source blocks. If I were to say place a block, you know, right here, it would update this and then it would flood the flood the floor, which is by the way just suspended on string. Now another example of water that's in an update skipped state would be what I have here. This is a simple up and down player transportation system. So we can ride the column up. We can jump through that water down. Now, of course, these don't have to be in an update skipped state. We could just put open fence gates here, here, and here. But I like the way it looks like that. Now, this is nice because contrasting to the normal system where we drop down like something like this, we drop down into water. If I'm not wearing boots, then I'm slowed down by that water as soon as I drop down. Whereas with this, I fall through the water and then I land just on dry ground. So a little bit nicer.